Robeson, Tristan Hoffman, Noble Bowles, and Jaeger Bomb Legend. Thank you to all of you for showing support with your channel membership. It means the world to me. Today I'm going to be recapping the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm sorry this video is a little bit late. The NFL Draft actually ended up happening on my girlfriend and I's anniversary. And I had made plans that day. We went out to this wildlife reserve place where I was able to pet a kangaroo and an emu. I might hopefully remember to edit in a picture of the kangaroo right here. So that was pretty cool, a really cool experience. And I also proposed, so hey, that's pretty cool. And she said yes. How funny would it be if I mentioned that I proposed, but she actually said no? And I'm just like carrying on. Yeah, so that's really cool as well. Very excited about that, but that is why the video covering the draft's a little bit late. I was a little bit preoccupied, but I promise I made it up to you guys. The last few years I've covered the draft, I have only looked at the first round of the draft. This video is going to be a very long video. I'm going team by team, alphabetically, and covering every single player that they picked in the draft. I'm only really going to talk about the guys who were first or second round picks. I'm just going to list out the other guys, but we're going to go do that for every single team. I have some notes on a handful of these players. You guys know I'm not a big college football guy or a big draft guy in general, but I did my best to kind of compile my notes and some thoughts on some of these guys that I had opinions on, and then giving each team a draft grade. Now don't take this grade too serious. Like I said, I'm not a draft guy or college guy, it's just kind of what I personally think. Okay, without further ado, the Arizona Cardinals. They had 2 first-round picks. The first one is 4th overall in the draft. They took wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. In my opinion, he was the most talented, perhaps the best player in this draft. He's immediately going to come in and be the number 1 target for Kyler Murray, and a guy that can hopefully help elevate this Cardinals team that's been struggling the last little while. And with their second first-round pick at the 27th overall spot, they took edge Darius Robinson from Missouri. Robinson is a physical presence up front. He is the highest graded edge rusher in the SEC for rushing the passer according to Pro Football Focus. Second round pick, 43rd overall, they took corner Max Melton from Rutgers. Melton has the 4th most pass breakups in the Big Ten, can play in the slot. In college, he played inside and outside, so very versatile there in the cornerback. Third round pick, 66 overall. The Cardinals select running back Trey Benson from Florida State. The 4 total third round picks, so their next third round pick, 71st overall. Offensive tackle Isaiah Adams from Illinois. At 82nd overall, they take tight end Tip Riemann from Illinois. 2 Illinois players there. And you assumed, I don't know much about Tip Riemann, but if he's a blocking tight end primarily, maybe him and Adams have some sort of chemistry there. final pick in the third round, 90th overall, they take corner Elijah Jones from Boston College. In the fourth round, 104th overall, the Cardinals take safety Taylor Dadrion Demerson from Texas Tech. And then they have 3 picks in the 5th round. The first one is at 138th overall. That's edge Xavier Thomas from Clemson. Then they take another offensive tackle, Christian Jones from Texas. Then their last pick in the 5th round is wide receiver Dejuan Palmer from UAB. Arizona does not have a pick in the 6th round, but in the 7th they take cornerback Jaden Davis from Miami. Now, overall, a very nice draft from Arizona. Like I said, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. there's a huge win for them. But then they bring in 2 great defensive players in Robinson and Melton in the early rounds. And I'm going to give Arizona an A for this draft. An A. Next, we move to the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, and we finally get our head scratcher here. This pick is the most controversial one, I think. I can't think of anything else. In the first round, at 8th overall, the Atlanta Falcons take quarterback Michael Penix Jr. from the University of Washington. Now, the real question here is just like, why? You just signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal. Kirk Cousins is one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL. And there's really no reason to think that, I think only 2 years are guaranteed, but there's no reason to think he won't still be playing at a high level in 4 years. The Michael Penix Jr., he has a really good arm. He has elite arm talent. But the thing with him is he's a little bit older. So by the time Kirk Cousins is maybe retiring or going to another team, whatever, Penix is going to be like 26 years old, I think, maybe even 27. So this just felt like a weird move. And I think even the owner was like coming down and questioning the general manager about it. But the problem with this is really you've just kind of created a QB controversy when there didn't need to be one. And I just think it's a bad pick overall. But in my opinion, the bigger mistake here from Atlanta, but the one people don't really seem to be talking about as much, is in the 2nd round at 35th overall. They take defensive lineman Rook Orhoro from Clemson. But they give up a 3rd round pick here. They move up 8 spots. And this guy is the first defensive tackle drafted in the 2024 draft. But he wasn't even the highest rated defensive tackle by pretty much any mock draft. A lot of people had him as the 3rd best defensive tackle in the draft, and like I said, they traded a pick to move up 8 spots to get Orhoro, when there's absolutely no indication that he would not have been there at their pick. He's very athletic defensive lineman. He's very powerful, strong player. He is not a good pass rusher at the college level, and he is extremely raw. This is going to be a guy that takes some time to develop to reach his potential. And it just felt like a reach year for Atlanta, who, based on their offseason moves so far, seems to be a team that wants to be in win-now mode. But there were more NFL-ready players available here in the 2nd round for them. And in the first round, there were many players that would have helped them better to win now. A guy that goes with the next pick, Rome, the wide receiver, goes the 9th overall pick. You don't think that maybe Kirk Cousins would have liked to have a wide receiver like Rome to throw the ball to, an elite player, can win contested catches, can immediately step in and be a wide receiver day one. Like, it's just weird. In the third round, at the 74th overall spot, Atlanta takes edge Braylon Trice, also from Washington. Fourth round, 109th overall pick, Atlanta takes defensive lineman Brandon Dorlus from Oregon. Fifth round, 143rd overall pick, they take linebacker J.D. Bertrand from Notre Dame. Sixth round, 186th overall pick, Atlanta takes running back Jace McClellan from Alabama. One pick later, at 187, they take wide receiver Casey Washington from Illinois. And with their final pick in the draft, 6th round, 197th overall, defensive lineman Zion Luge from Georgia. A really weird draft from Atlanta, honestly. A team that I honestly had really high expectations for this coming season. A team I thought that'd be really good, and this just felt like kind of an overall step back for them. I'm going to give Atlanta a D. The Penix pick, especially in can we talk about quarterbacks were just flying off the board early. I didn't expect that because there were so many NFL ready players there, but so many teams took quarterbacks like six. The first 3 picks were all QBs. I think 6 of the first 10 players were all quarterbacks or something like that. Like, crazy, because honestly in this draft, I only feel like 2 or 3 of these guys are going to be long-term starter quality NFL QBs. I feel like there's going to be a lot of busts here in the top 10. Anyway, next up we have Baltimore. Their first pick in the first round, 30th overall, they take corner Nate Wiggins from Clemson. I think it's a good pick for them because they already have Humphrey and Hamilton in the secondaries. There's going to be less pressure on him. Gives him more time to figure out the game. He's really lengthy, has elite speed. Second round, 62nd overall pick, they take tackle Roger Rosengarten from Washington. Can start right away at right tackle from them. Is a really good pass protector, has a high motor. Exciting player for Baltimore. Baltimore already has a ton of depth. They're already looking really good. So any of these guys is just gravy. Third round, 93rd overall pick. The Baltimore Ravens take edge Adisa Isaac from Penn State. 2 picks in the 4th round. The first one at 113th overall. They take wide receiver Devontae Walker from North Carolina. And then at 130th, they take corner DJ Tampa from Iowa State. In the 5th round, 165th overall, they take running back Rasheen Ali from Marshall. 6th round, 218th overall, quarterback Devin Leary from Kentucky comes off the board. Then there's 2 picks in the 7th round for Baltimore. The first one at 228th overall, we take center Nick Samick from Michigan State. And then at 250th, it is safety Sanusi Kane from Purdue. This is Baltimore's draft. I'm going to give them a B+. Like I said, they're a team that's ready to compete now. I think Wiggins and Rosengarten are going to be day one players, but I'm not sure about the rest of this draft. once you get beyond the third round, I don't know if any of these guys are going to ever be full-time NFL players, but we'll see. Okay, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, they did not have a first-round pick, but they had a ton of picks overall. I think the most of any team. Don't quote me on that, but they had 10 overall draft selections. I think it's the most of any team. Their first pick came in the second round, 33rd overall. They took wide receiver Keon Coleman from Florida State, and they desperately needed a wide receiver. Diggs is gone, Davis is gone. Coleman has good size, he's very athletic. He has really good hands, but he's not the best route runner. This kind of feels like a boom or bust pick for me. Which is weird when you just lost so many, you just lost 2 established wide receivers. You think you'd want to bring in a guy who, even if he doesn't have the most upside, is kind of more of a complete product. Because Coleman has the potential to, like I said, completely bust, in my opinion. So I don't know, maybe, it could pay off for them, but with Buffalo, their window is now. They need to win now. I feel like there was guys left on the board who were maybe more sure things, maybe not with the upside, but still. And then their second pick in the second round at 60th overall, they take safety Cole Bishop from Utah, high motor player. And with Micah Hyde leaving Buffalo, they need somebody out there in the secondary. I think Cole Bishop can be a day one player for them. Third round, 95th overall, they take Dwayne Carter from Duke. Fourth round, 128th overall, running back Ray Davis from Kentucky. Then Buffalo has 3 picks in the 5th round. The first 141st overall. Buffalo takes center Cedric Van Pran from Georgia. At 160th, they take linebacker Edefon Ulofushio from Washington. And then at 168th overall, they take, I actually don't know what ED is. That's embarrassing. What is ED? I mean, I know what it is, but what is that? Defensive ends. Why is it edge rusher? Is that saying DE? Yeah, DE is defensive end, but edge rusher is edge. But did I just write it wrong? I just wrote ED. I think it might be edge. I'm not 100% sure. Know what that is too. Javon Solomon from Troy. Then Buffalo has 2 picks in the 6th round. The first one coming at 204. They take tackle Tylen Grable from UCF. And then at 219, they take corner Daquan Hardy from Penn State. With their final pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select at 221st overall guard Travis Clayton from the International Pathway Program, which I'd never heard of that before. But 10 picks overall in this entire draft. Buffalo was loading up, but in my opinion, none of these guys really are massive standouts. Like I said, your best pick here is a guy with a lot of bust potential, in my opinion. I think Bishop will play quite a bit for them. I'm just, he's, like I say, he's a high motor player, but he'll definitely play. I just don't know how good overall he'll be. I'll give Buffalo a C in this draft. I say just had a very average draft here. Let's move to the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers need a lot of help. first pick does come in the first round, 32nd overall, which has to sting for them because they handed the Chicago Bears the first overall pick, which could have really helped them out this year. But at 32nd overall, they take wide receiver Xavier Legette from South Carolina. He's coming off of a breakout season. He has great strength and speed. He's consistently beating coverage. Kind of reminds me of DK Metcalf a little bit. Not one-for-one comparison, but just the kind of wide receiver he is. And I think he'll immediately slot in at the WR2 behind Johnson. In the second round, 46th overall, Carolina selects running back Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Now, Brooks is coming off of an ACL tear that happened last season. So that, in my opinion, is why he dropped a little bit. I think he should have come off the board earlier than this because he's kind of the complete package at running back. He's fast, he's strong, and he's a good size. So this guy might end up being a real steal for the Carolina Panthers. A guy that outperforms his draft position for sure. In the third round at 72nd overall, they take linebacker Trevin Wallace from Kentucky. In the fourth round, 101 overall, the Panthers take tight end Jatavion Sanders from Texas. Fifth round, 157th overall, they take corner Chow Smith-Wade from Washington State. Sixth round, 200th overall, they take defensive lineman Jaden Cromedy from Mississippi State. And then their final pick in the draft, 7th round, 240th overall, they take linebacker Michael Barrett from Michigan. I really like the Xavier Legette pick and the Jonathan Brooks pick. Like I said, Brooks feels like it could be a steal as long as that ACL hasn't caused any long-term issues for him. Because like I said, he is really, he's really fast, really strong. But if that's taken away anyway because of that injury, might be an issue. But I'm going to give Carolina, I'm going to give them a C+. C+. Now, here we're coming to the big ticket item, the Chicago Bears. They only had 5 picks total in this draft. I think it's the least amount of picks for any team in the draft. I think. But they made them all count. First round, first overall pick, no surprise here. Quarterback Caleb Williams from USC. He's a great playmaker. He has elite arm talent. He's not afraid to gamble. He is not afraid to throw those 50-50 balls. And he has great timing on his passing window. He knows when the window's closing, when there's still a little bit of it. And I think he's going to be an exciting addition. And a change of pace in Chicago. He plays the game very differently from the way Justin Fields plays the game. So it's the style of football in Chicago should theoretically at least look different. Then with their second pick in the first round of the NFL draft at 9th overall, Chicago takes wide receiver Rome Odunze from Washington. He has elite hands. And he is amazing at winning 50-50 balls. He has won 21 of 28 contested targets. Like I said, Caleb Williams is a guy who is not afraid to gamble and throw a 50-50 ball. And Rome is the exact guy you want to be throwing those to. He's going to be your wide receiver 3 behind Moore and Keenan Allen, but I think he's a guy that could eventually work his way up to a wide receiver 1 spot. If not this season, by next season. And again, it just blows my mind that Atlanta did not draft this guy 1 pick before this. I was almost certain that they were going to draft him when I saw he was still available at 8. And then he falls to Chicago here. to be the perfect draft mate with Caleb Williams. And I said I was only really going to talk about round 1 and round 2 guys, but this guy that they took in the 3rd round at 75th overall offensive tackle, Kieran Amagaji, I'm not sure, my apologies, from Yale. He is pretty raw, but he has really high upside. He's a versatile offensive lineman. He's an elite athlete. He has really good length, and I think he's a super high ceiling, so I just wanted to point him out. In the 4th round, 121st overall, they took punter Torrey Taylor from Iowa. And their final pick comes in the 5th round, 144th overall. They take edge Austin Booker from Kansas. It's like I said, only 5 picks overall for the Chicago Bears, but they made them all count. And having Rome fall into their lap right there at 9, I'm not even sure that in their wildest dreams the Chicago front office expected that to happen. And I have no choice but to give them an A+ for this draft. Next team up alphabetically, Cincinnati. A ton of picks here. They also had 10 picks, tied with Buffalo for the most, I believe. Their first pick comes at 18th overall. They take tackle Amarius Mims from Georgia. One of the best pass protectors, if not the best pass protector in this draft. And security for Joe Burrow, who desperately needs it. In 402 snaps, Amarius Mims only allowed 6 pressures. He does have some injury issues, which for a team like Cincinnati, which seems to be plagued with injury issues, isn't great, but if he can stay healthy, this guy's going to be huge towards keeping Joe Burrow healthy. In the 2nd round of the draft, at the 49th overall pick, Cincinnati takes Chris Jenkins from Michigan. Is the strongest physical player in the draft. Top 5 run defense in the Power 5. Great length and an elite pass rusher. Great pickup for them. And then, this guy, another 3rd rounder I want to talk about. In the 3rd round at 80th overall, they take wide receiver Jermaine Burton from Alabama. This is a guy that probably on talent alone should have come off the board earlier, but he had some off-field issues that caused him to slide down in the draft. I'm not sure if there's a criminal investigation or anything like that, but allegedly struck a fan. Not 100% sure about that. I didn't look into it too much, but this could end up being a steal. Burton did not have a single drop last season. And then for their 2nd pick in the 3rd round at 96th overall, they take D-lineman McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M. In the 4th round at 115th overall, they take tight end Eric All from Iowa. In the 5th round at 149th overall, they take corner Josh Newton from TCU. Then Cincinnati has 2 picks in the 6th round. The first one at 194th is tight end Tanner McLaughlin from Arizona. And then at 214, they take edge Cedric Johnson from Ole Miss. And then finally 2 7th round picks at 224th. The Bengals take safety Dejon Anthony from Ole Miss. And at 237, they take center Matt Lee from Miami, Florida. The first 3 guys off the board here alone make this a great pick, a great draft for Cincinnati. I'm going to give them a solid B. And if Mims can stay healthy all season, I'll upgrade that to a B+. Okay. Cleveland, only 6 picks here. I couldn't find too much out about some of these guys. But in the 2nd round, at 54th overall, they take D-lineman Michael Holt Jr. from Ohio State. A really high upside player. 2nd best best pass rusher among D tackles in the FBS, is a little bit undersized, which could be a concern at the NFL level, but didn't seem to determine the college level, so we'll see. The third round, 85th overall pick, guard Zach Zinter from Michigan. No picks in the fourth round, but in the fifth at 157th, wide receiver Jamari Thrash from Louisville. Then the next round, turn 6th overall, they take linebacker Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State. And then Cleveland ends their draft with two players taken in the 7th round. The first one, 227th cornerback Miles Harden from South Dakota. And then at 243rd, D-lineman Joan Briggs from Cincinnati. Quickly gotta take a drink. My throat's getting dry. It's gonna be a very long video. A lot of whispering. We're already half an hour in and we're only at the letter C. Speaking of C, that's what I'm going to give Cleveland for this draft. I'm going to give them a C+. I might just start speeding things up a little bit here. Dallas, in their first round at 29th overall, they take tackle Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. Strengthens their trenches. He's a great athlete, a bit of a project, but did not allow any sacks and 355 blocks. Second round, 56th overall, they take edge Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan. Great run defender, not that great in the pass rush, but has the best run defense grade among FBS edges. So maybe sacrifice a little bit of the pass rush ability there for that elite run defense. I'm going to stop saying the total overall pick just to kind of speed things up here. Once we get out of the second round, Dallas has two third-round picks. The first one is Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. They also take linebacker Marist Liufau from Notre Dame. In the fifth round, Dallas takes corner Kalen Carson from Wake Forest. In the sixth round, they take wide receiver Ryan Flournoy from Southeast Missouri State. And then Dallas has two picks in the seventh round. The first one is tackle Nathan Thomas from Louisiana. And then they take also D-lineman Justin Rogers from Auburn. Overall, I think Dallas did have a solid draft. I'm going to give them a B-. Denver, coming into this draft, I said they need pretty much just about everything. So in my opinion, as long as they just targeted best available player, things like that, there really wasn't a way for them to lose this draft. And the run on QBs in the first round continues. Their first pick at 12th overall, they take quarterback Bo Nix from Oregon. Could potentially start day one. They just brought in Zach Wilson, so I'm not sure what they're really gonna do there. I kind of assume Zach Wilson's gonna be on the bench, but there's a potential Bo Nix struggles. You could have a bit of a QB controversy. People asking for Zach Wilson to start. We'll see. Nix, he gets the ball out quick. Extremely accurate passer, 70% accurate pass rate, which is second among Power 5 QBs. I kind of question his ability to truly be like a franchise-level quarterback, but I think he'll at least be good. I don't expect him to be disastrous. The third round, they take edge Jonah Ellis from Utah. 39 pressures and 13 sacks in 10 games. Won 18% of his pass rush attempts. I'm a little bit shocked that Ellis fell to the third round, and I think Denver could potentially have a real steal here, getting him with the 76th overall pick. In the fourth round, they take wide receiver Troy Franklin from Oregon, guy that Bo Nix might already have some chemistry with, though I'm not too certain on if Franklin will be playing that much. Denver has 2 picks in the 5th round. The first one, they take corner Chris Abrams-Drain from Missouri, and then running back Audric Estime from Notre Dame. No picks in the 6th, but 2 in the 7th. In the first one, they take wide receiver Devon Valet from Utah, and then inside offensive lineman Nick Gargiulo from South Carolina. Like I said, in my mind, as long as they didn't have any terrible reaches, Denver could really do no wrong in this draft. I'm going to give them an A. And you want to talk about a team that had a really great draft. Detroit did not have a ton of picks, but in my opinion, they made the most of them. Detroit had a glaring issue with their secondary coming into this next season. They were kind of set most everywhere else, but their secondary was like one of the worst in the entire league last season, and it was a huge glaring issue for them that they needed to address. And in the first 2 rounds of this draft, they completely addressed that issue. Great draft from Detroit. First round, 24th overall pick, they take cornerback Darian Arnold from Alabama. Super strong mentality, led all SEC corners in interceptions and pass breakups, led the SEC in run defense grade according to PFF, and is just a natural ball hawk. This dude is going to get a bunch of interceptions. And then in the 2nd round, 61st overall, they take another corner, Ennis Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri. Extremely physical player, does not shy away from the physicality. A little bit undersized, but kind of has that, small dog mentality. Excels in the zone. And they, like I said, they completely fixed that problem of theirs right there. They had 2 4th-round picks. The first one they use on Giovanni Manu from the University of British Columbia, and the second on safety Sione Vaki from Utah. No 5th-round picks or 7th-round picks, but they have 2 picks in the 6th round. First one goes to D-lineman Mekhi Wingo from LSU, and the second one to Christian Mahogany from Boston College, who is a guard. And Detroit, in my opinion, gets an easy A in this draft. They accomplished everything they set out to do. Tacked on a little bit extra there at the end just to have some pieces to play around with. And, yeah, great work from them. Next up, Green Bay. Green Bay here in this draft needing versatility. Wait, hold on, we have a new 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Green Bay had 11 selections. So Green Bay actually, I believe, now had the most draft selections in this draft. Their first one coming in the first round at 25th overall is tackle Jordan Morgan from Arizona. Strong played outside in college, but as what I was reading is that he's probably going to play inside in the NFL. Because there's some concerns about his wingspan, so they might want to keep him on the inside. And he just adds great depth and versatility at that tackle position. In the 2nd round at 45th overall, the Green Bay Packers are the very first team to select a linebacker. And they take Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. Very few weaknesses in his game. Great athlete. Highly rated in both coverage, run defense, and pass rush. And then their next selection in the 2nd round at 58th overall, they take safety Javon Bullard from Georgia. Just depth safety for them is good in coverage, can play pretty much all over the field in the secondary. In the third round, they have two selections. The first one is Marshawn Lloyd from USC, who's a running back. 3 picks later, they take linebacker Tyron Hopper from Missouri. In the fourth round, Green Bay selects safety Evan Williams from Oregon. That's a great whiskey. 2 picks in the fifth round. The first one is offensive tackle Jacob Monk from Duke. The next one is safety Keaton Oladapo from Oregon State. In the sixth round, they take offensive tackle Travis Glover from Georgia State. Then they have 2 picks in the seventh round, 10 selections apart. The first one they use on quarterback Michael Pratt from Tulane. And the next one they use on cornerback Kalen King from Penn State. Green Bay, I really like that Cooper pick for them, but Jordan Morgan and Javon Bullard kind of feel like depth pieces for them. I don't know if they edge out anybody else on the squad at the top of the depth chart. Feels like they could have perhaps made more impactful selections there. Although, I'm not saying those were bad picks, because they're going to be great depth players. I just don't know if any of them are big difference makers. I think that Green Bay got a lot of versatility in this draft. They added depth pieces for different looks, but overall I'll give them a B grade. Next up we have the Houston Texans. I don't have a ton to say about these selections. Their first one comes in the second round at 42nd overall. They take corner Kamari Lassiter from Georgia, an extremely smart player, but was really slow at his pro day, and that was a big concern for a lot of people because speed is important at that position. And then at 59th overall, they take tackle Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. Just going to be a depth lineman for them. Steady player, does not make a ton of mistakes. But again, not a flashy pick, not a big game changer in my opinion. Both these picks, Lassiter and Fisher, kind of reminds me of Green Bay a little bit. Just depth guys. In the third round, they take safety Kalen Bullock from USC. The fourth round, tight end Cade Stover from Ohio State. They have 2 selections in the sixth round. The first one they use on linebacker Jamal Hill from Oregon. And the second one they use on running back Jahar Jordan from Louisville. Then they have 3 selections in the seventh round. The first one I did again. I don't know what happened. They take edge Solomon Byrd from USC. Then defensive lineman Marcus Harris from Auburn. And with their final selection in the seventh round, they take tackle Ladarius Henderson from Michigan. And that is the Houston Texans. And overall, I'm going to give them a C grade. This feels like a very average draft. Like I said, a lot of depth pieces. Probably guys that we'll see in and out of the play, in and out of the game over the course of the season, but nobody that's going to be, like I said, in my opinion, a huge game changer for them. Next up, Indianapolis. And there's something really weird happening in this draft. No defensive players were coming off the board, even though we knew there were some really good ones here. The teams at the top of the draft order were going all in on offense. We had wide receivers, we had tight ends, of course we had quarterbacks, we had running backs, but nobody's taking defenders. Until Indianapolis comes on the clock and they get an absolute steal. I do not think Indianapolis was expecting him to still be here, but at the 15th overall pick, they take edge Leatu Latu from UCLA. Most productive pass rusher in the NCAA over the last 2 seasons. He does have some medical issues, but I think this dude is quick, he's fast, he's explosive. I think he can be a sacks leader on this team. in the very near future. I think it's crazy that he fell to 15th. Yeah, it was just so weird seeing so many offensive players taken in a row. In the second round, at 52nd overall, they took wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. Some people had this dude going in the first round. At least my last mock. Not my most recent one, but the one before that, I mocked him in the first round. And I saw some other people as well that thought he's going to go to the Chiefs. But he goes here to the Colts at 52nd overall. Where's here from Texas? Boomer bust player. A good playmaker. Immediate starter. He has elite hands. He had 103 targets over the last 2 years and only dropped a single ball. So great hands. In the third round, the Colts take tackle Matt Goncalves from Pittsburgh. In the fourth round, they take center Tanor Bortolini from Wisconsin. Then they have 3 picks in the fifth round. The first one is wide receiver Anthony Gold from Oregon State. Then they take safety Jalen Carleys from Missouri. And finally in the fifth round, Jalen Simpson from Auburn, who's a safety, slightly different spelling. In the sixth round, Indianapolis takes corner Micah Abraham from Marshall. In their last pick in the seventh round, D-lineman Jonah Laulu from Oklahoma. Jacksonville. All I can say from Jacksonville is they got some upside players. I guess that's what they were looking for. They were looking for guys that maybe aren't complete products, but could turn into something down the line. That's what kind of the theme of all these guys is, in my opinion. Their first pick at 23rd overall is wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr., playmaking wide receiver. Great vertical threat, explosive, good deep ball threat, good speed. He's gonna fly down the field and try to beat his coverage with his speed, with his physicality. Second round pick, 48th overall, they take D-lineman Mason Smith from LSU. Really high upside player, good at pressuring the quarterback, but is definitely a project guy. In the third round, they take cornerback Jarian Jones from Florida State. 2 picks in the fourth round. The first one is tackle Javen Foster from Missouri. Then they take D-lineman Jordan Jefferson from LSU. 2 picks in the fifth. Cornerback DeAndre Prince from Ole Miss and running back Keelan Robinson from Texas. In the sixth round, they take kicker Cam Little from Arkansas, and to end their draft, in the seventh round, they take edge Miles Cole from Texas Tech. And that is Jacksonville. Like I said, a lot of these guys are upside players. These are guys you're hoping turn into somebody. They have the potential to. So just for that reason alone, I have to give them a C. The Kansas City Chiefs only had 7 picks in this draft. With their first one at 28th overall, they take wide receiver Xavier Worthy from Texas. He is the fastest player in combine history. Apparently that's something I saw. I didn't see his combine. This could potentially be that Tyreek Hill replacement they've been looking for. He's a super explosive deep threat, especially with that speed, but the problem is he's very, very thin, very lightweight. Could have trouble physically in this league. You worry the dude takes one big hit and he might be out for the season. In the second round at 63rd overall, they take tackle Kingsley. Sorry to clear my throat. they take tackle Kingsley Suamatea from BYU. Left tackle, good start there at left tackle for the Chiefs, but he has experience on both sides and is a really just high-level athlete. 2 fourth-round picks. The first one is tight end Jared Wiley from TCU. Then 2 picks later, they take safety Jaden Hicks from Washington State. In the 5th round, Kansas City takes center Hunter Norzad from Penn State. Then the 6th round, they take cornerback Kamal Hayden from Tennessee. And they end their draft with a guard C.J. Hansen from Holy Cross. I think overall Kansas City, they did good in this draft. Especially with Worthy getting a starting left tackle potentially in the 2nd round, for the team that just won a Super Bowl. This is going to be great news for them. I have to give them a B+. Alright, it's been an hour. I took a quick break there. I paused. I went and ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It was absolutely delicious. Rested my voice for a little bit. Now we're back with the Las Vegas Raiders. In the 1st round at 13th overall, the Raiders selected tight end Brock Bowers from Georgia. In my opinion, one of the most exciting and interesting players in this draft. He is an elite yards after catch creator. Extremely versatile. I think he's going to be an immediate impact player. Bowers is is really strong. I kind of just say he's kind of a bulldozer. It's going to be really fun to watch this guy play this year. He's very interesting to me. In the 2nd round at 44th overall, they take center Jackson Bowers Johnson from Oregon. Can play anywhere in the offensive line. Only allowed 1 pressure on 481 pass blocks at Oregon. I don't know if that's last year, last 2 years, whatever, but yeah, great player. And he did play center at Oregon, but he can play anywhere on the O-line. The Raiders do have a top 10 center in the league, so it'll be interesting to see. They'll probably put Jackson Bowers Johnson starting somewhere else, I have to imagine. In the 3rd round, they took tackle Delmar Glaze from Maryland. In the 4th round, cornerback Decamarion Richardson from Mississippi State. In the 5th round, linebacker Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State. In the 6th round, running back Dylan Laub from New Hampshire. And then the Raiders had 2 picks in the 7th round. The first one, they took safety Trey Taylor from Air Force. And then they took cornerback MJ Devonshire from Pittsburgh. Bowers and Bowers Johnson, like I said, I think they're really good players. Bowers has the potential to be one of the better tight ends in the entire league, in my opinion. The Raiders for this draft, I'm going to give them a B. Now we come to the Los Angeles Chargers. They had the 5th overall pick in the 1st round. And with that, they took tackle Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Only allowed 13 pressures on 700 pass blocks in the last 2 years. I'm going to provide great protection for Herbert, his amazing size and athleticism. And they already have Rashawn Slater, who they took last season. I think Joe Alt is going to pair really well with him. In the 2nd round at 34th overall, they took wide receiver Ladd McConkey from Georgia. Great route runner, good hands, elite acceleration. I imagine they're probably going to play him predominantly in the slot because of his hands and route running. But Ladd McConkey is a very interesting offensive talent to pair with Justin Herbert. And then a 3rd round guy I want to bring up at 69th overall, they take up linebacker Jr. Colson from Michigan, one of the best coverage linebackers in all of college football, missed only 5% of his tackles, so maybe not super flashy as a player, but very effective, very efficient in playing in coverage. In the 4th round, they took defensive lineman Justin Epwigbe from Alabama. They had 2 picks in the 5th round. The first one, they take corner Darheep Still from Maryland. And then they take Cam Hart from Notre Dame 3 picks later. In the 6th round, the Chargers take running back Kamani Vidal from Troy. And the Chargers had 2 picks in the 7th round. The first one, they take wide receiver Brendan Rice from USC. And then they took wide receiver Cornelius Johnson from Michigan. Now the Los Angeles Rams, they had a pretty, I don't want to say easy, but straightforward task this draft, and that was to replace Aaron Donald's production. You're not going to replace Aaron Donald. He's a Hall of Famer. But tried to find a way to replace his production. So with their first pick, 19th overall, the Rams select edge Jared Verse from Florida State. Verse is a very, very powerful edge rusher, powerful hands, very strong. Kind of reminds you of Aaron Donald a little bit. And then the 2nd round at 39th overall, they take his teammate from Florida State, D lineman Braden Fisk. Kind of a short wingspan, which is a bit of a concern, but very fast as a player to maybe make up for that. The Rams have 2 third-round picks. The first one they use on Blake Corum from Michigan, and their next they use on safety Cameron Kinchins from Miami, Florida. They have a 5th-round pick that they use on edge Brennan Jackson from Washington State, and then the Rams have 4 6th-round picks. The first one, D lineman Tyler Davis from Clemson. Then they grab a kicker, Joshua Carty from Stanford. They get a wide receiver in Jordan Whittington from Texas, and then they grab a center, Bo Limmer from Arkansas. And finally, in the 7th round, they select interior offensive lineman K.T. Leviston from Kansas State. I think I forgot to give the Chargers a draft grade. The Chargers, they take Alt McConkey, Colson, I think just in those 3 guys being such great picks. I'm giving the Chargers an A. And the Rams, I am giving the Rams a B. We move now to the Miami Dolphins. Not very many picks here for Miami, but their first one, 21st overall, they take edge Chop Robinson from Penn State. Really high potential guy. He has good power and speed. And then the 2nd round at 55th overall, they take tackle Patrick Ball from Houston, who has very good length and wingspan, has the highest pass blocking grade among all tackles from the FBS, and I think could provide some very good protection for Tua. No picks in the 3rd, but in the 4th, they take running back Jalen Wright from Tennessee. Then the 5th round, they take edge Mohamed Kamara from Colorado State. 2 6th-round picks for the Dolphins. The first one they use on a wide receiver, Malik Washington from Virginia. Then they grab safety Patrick McMorris from California. And finally, in the 7th round, they grab wide receiver Taj Washington from USC. Overall, I think this is a good draft for Miami. They improved in the areas they needed to improve upon. I'm going to give them a B+. Now, the trade that we kind of all knew was going to happen, not a huge shocker that it did. And honestly, I think an exciting guy for Minnesota to bring in, who they end up with 2 first-round picks in this draft, but they trade up. Wait, did they have to trade up for this pick? Or was this one? was the Chargers picks. They traded up to 10 to get that pick. Because people were expecting them to trade up to 4. There's the Vikings at number 11 and 23. They end up trading up one spot to 10. And they hold on to 17. Okay, I don't know the details of the trade, my apologies, but at 10th overall, the Minnesota Vikings select quarterback J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. He's going to have good weapons to throw to, obviously Justin Jefferson there. And he has experience in a pro-style offense, which is a plus for a rookie QB who is going to be your day one starter. Good arm talent, really good velocity, good accuracy. He does have some strength concerns if that line doesn't hold up and McCarthy starts taking some sacks. I'm not 100% convinced he's going to last the entire season. Then at the 17th overall pick, the Vikings take edge Dallas Turner from Alabama. Extremely explosive pass rusher, a top 3 edge rusher in all of the SEC, and a guy that can also drop into coverage easily and play that way as well. A good first round there for the Vikings. In the 4th round, they take cornerback Kyrie Jackson from Oregon. 2 6th round picks. The first one, they grab tackle Walter Rouse from Oklahoma. And then a kicker, Will Reichard from Alabama. With their first of 2 7th round picks, they take a center, Michael Juergens from Wake Forest. And then they grab a D lineman, Levi Drake Rodriguez from Texas A&M Commerce. Not a very big draft for the Vikings, only 7 picks there, but 2 first round picks. Turner, I'm extremely excited for Dallas Turner. I think could be a great player for them. J.J. McCarthy for me is kind of a wait and see guy. I'm not as high on him as some others are. I think he could be good, but I'm just not personally sold on him. I'm going to give Minnesota a B in this draft. The New England Patriots, I'm pretty sure, this is their first draft without Bill Belichick calling the shots. And at 3rd overall in the first round, they grab a quarterback, Drake May from North Carolina. Some people thought he was 2. Some people thought he was 3. Personally, for me, I had him at the 3rd best quarterback in this draft, right where the Patriots grab him. Drake May has elite arm talent with a really good deep ball. He can comfortably throw over the middle, which is very important in the NFL. Has a very quick release, but struggles sometimes with his accuracy and ball placement, but he does have good mobility. Then in the 2nd round at 37th overall, they give him a wide receiver, Jalen Polk from the University of Washington. Good run blocker, and he's not scared of physicality, which for some of these wide receivers, they can tend to maybe divas a little bit. They don't like throwing the body. They don't like getting rough. They don't like blocking runs. But Polk, no issue with any of that. He kind of has a little bit of a nasty streak in him, which is a good thing. Does not drop many passes, and he's good at getting 50-50 balls. But Polk is a limited route runner, which could hold him back a little bit. In the 3rd round, they grab offensive tackle Caden Wallace from Penn State. 2 4th round picks. The first one at guard, Layden Robinson from Texas A&M. Then another wide receiver, Javon Baker from UCF. No 5th round picks for New England, but they grab 2 in the 6th. The first up, cornerback Marcellus Dial from South Carolina. And then another quarterback, Joe Milton, the 3rd from Tennessee. And finally, they end their draft in the 7th round with a tight end, Jaheim Bell from Florida State. Drake May here is kind of the belle of the ball. Polk, I can see him sticking around. Personally, for me, I think his ceiling is maybe like a wide receiver 2 on a good team. On a bad team, he could be wide receiver 1, but I think if it's a good team that's in the playoffs, his ceiling's a WR2. I'm going to give New England a B+ here. New Orleans, their first pick is at 14th overall, and they take tackle Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, an elite run blocker, can start at right tackle, can start at guard, very physical, very strong, great grab for them. And then a guy that kind of slid down a little bit, I wasn't expecting him to be here, at 41st overall in the second round, they grabbed cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. He was a true freshman starting at Alabama, which is saying something. Great in coverage, and he's really good at breaking up passes at the catch. So when the hands are here, the ball's coming in. He's good at getting in there and breaking that up just before the catch, that's a legit skill. Kind of surprised to see Kool-Aid fall to 41. Honestly, a lot of drafts had him going late in the first, early in the second. No third or fourth round picks for the Saints, but they have 3 in the 5th. The first one they use on a quarterback, Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. Then they grab a wide receiver, Bub Means from Pittsburgh. And finally, a linebacker, Jalen Ford from Texas. In the 6th round, New Orleans grabs D-lineman Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa. And then to end their draft in the 7th, they get a tackle, Josiah Aziram from Eastern Kentucky. With Fuaga and Kool-Aid, I think could be a steal there for them, getting him that late. They got some really good players there at the top of this draft. Missing out on the 3rd and the 4th round dropped their grade for me, but I still have to give them a B+. The Giants, they have the 6th overall pick in the draft, and they grab a wide receiver, Malik Neighbors from LSU, extremely explosive receiver. He had 44 receptions that went for more than 20 yards, has elite movement skills, can change direction while still accelerating, really good footwork, and I think Neighbors immediately slots in as your number 1 receiver in New York. This dude has elite level talent, a great speedy guy. Gonna be exciting to see. Now Daniel Jones still the quarterback presumably, so that might be an issue for Neighbors, but it could maybe wake up Daniel Jones a little bit. Then the second round at 47th overall, they take a safety, Tyler Nubin from Minnesota, who is the highest ranked safety according to Pro Football Focus. Extremely versatile player, really good football IQ, and can play all over the secondary, just really versatile. Okay. In the 3rd round, the Giants take cornerback Andrew Phillips from Kentucky. In the 4th round, they take tight end Theo Johnson from Penn State. In the 5th round, they take running back Tyrone Tracy from Purdue. And then in the 6th round, they take linebacker Darius Muasau from UCLA. My apologies. No 7th round pick for New York. But overall, Nubin getting a guy that good, like I said, the best at his position, getting him all the way at 47th, getting an elite wide receiver, I have to give the Giants an A. Okay, the Jets, the new look Jets, the new logo. It was pretty obvious what the Jets need to do here after last season. Sorry. Obviously, the Jets, they needed to protect Aaron Rodgers. What happened last season cannot be allowed to happen again. Number one priority for them, and they accomplish it 11th overall. They get tackle Olumuyiwa Fashanu from Penn State. Great pass blocker, good protection for Rodgers, still pretty young. Really fast feet, but a strong player, good power. In the third round, they take a wide receiver, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, and I'm talking about this guy here because he's an extremely unique wide receiver. He used to play running back, so he gets the ball in his hands. So he's running his routes, doing whatever as a wide receiver, but as soon as he gets that ball in his hands, he goes back to running back mode. He had 683 yards after catch. He forced 63 missed tackles, so dude is used to hitting those jukes, those spin moves. So him with Aaron Rodgers could potentially be a very lethal combination. And I think this guy could end up being a huge steal, getting him here in the third round, because he's such a unique player. Almost like a discount dollar store version of Christian McCaffrey, kind of. I could see that. In the fourth round, the Jets take running back Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. They have 3 fifth-round picks, all pretty close together. They take quarterback Jordan Travis from Florida State, running back Isaiah Davis from South Dakota State, and then cornerback Quantez Stiggers from CFL. And then in the 7th round, they take a safety, Jalen Key from Alabama. The Jets, they accomplished exactly what they needed to do. And they got this very interesting prospect in Corley. And they didn't have a 2nd round pick, which knocks my grade down a little bit here, but I'm going to give the Jets a B. Now a team that had an amazing draft, I kind of didn't expect them to. I thought this might be a rough draft for them. But picking here 22nd, the Philadelphia Eagles get an absolute steal. Cornerback Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. He was a top 12 talent according to pretty much every outlet I was looking at. He's amazing in coverage and forced the most incompletions of any cornerback in the FBS. And getting him here, getting a great secondary player at 22nd. But then, let's go ahead and let's do it again at 40th overall in the 2nd round. They take another cornerback, Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Can play all over secondary in coverage. Can play as safety or slot cornerback. Really good ball hawking skills, good athleticism. We had these 2 players here in the 2nd round, 2 cornerbacks, 2 elite secondary options. The Eagles made out like bandits here in the first 2 rounds. I'm surprised they were able to get both of those guys, let alone one of them. In the 3rd round, they take edge Jalix Hunt from Houston Christian. In the 4th round, they take running back Will Shipley from Clemson. 3 fifth-round picks for the Eagles. The first one is a wide receiver, Aeneas Smith from Texas A&M. Then they grab linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. from Clemson, and finally a guard, Trevor Keegan from Michigan. And then they grab 2 sixth-round picks. The first one is wide receiver Johnny Wilson from Florida State, and finally a center, Dylan McMahon from NC State. But this was a great draft for the Eagles. I have no choice but to give them an A+ here. Their secondary just became really dangerous. We're going to move now to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their first pick coming in the 1st round is at 20th overall. And they take a tackle, Troy Fautanu from Washington, an elite offensive lineman. Naturally plays at left tackle, and there's an opening at left tackle in Pittsburgh that he could fill. He's very versatile, strong player, elite pass blocker. And then at 51st overall in the second round, they take a center, Zach Frazier from West Virginia. Amazing handwork, body control, and I think personally can be a day one starter. Excuse me, that should not say center. That should say cornerback, CB. And he could be a day one starter at CB. I'm glad I have my notes here on the side, my little script, because I had some typos so far in my graphics. I apologize. The Steelers had 2 third-round picks. The first one is on a wide receiver, Roman Wilson from Michigan, and then a linebacker, Peyton Wilson from NC State. I'm sure there's no relation there, but I just think it's kind of funny. They have Russell Wilson. Now they have Roman Wilson and Peyton Wilson. Like, how many Wilsons can one roster handle? In the 4th round, the Steelers drafted a guard, Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. In the 6th round, they grabbed a defensive lineman, Logan Lee from Iowa, and also cornerback Ryan Watts from Texas. I think this is a really good draft for Pittsburgh. Getting Vadanu is immediately going to be helpful with Russell Wilson there. Getting not a game breaker by any means, but just a steady secondary player who's not going to make any mistakes. I want to give Pittsburgh an A-. The San Francisco 49ers. Their first pick in the draft comes at 31st overall in the first round, where they grab a wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall from Florida. A playmaking wide receiver, very reliable. Maybe not elite at any one thing, but steady player. Not going to make mistakes. And when they're losing Brandon Ayuk potentially and Deebo Samuel potentially, bringing in a guy like that can be relied on is a pretty smart option. Pearsall's only dropped 5 passes since 2020. This next pick is a little bit of a head scratcher. It's in the second round at 64th overall. They take a cornerback, Renardo Green from Florida State, who a lot of people pointed out kind of an odd fit. San Francisco is a zone-heavy defense, and Green has not really played zone in his college career. And there was other players available who fit San Francisco's schemes perhaps a little bit better. That was just kind of a weird pick. They probably saw something there they liked and couldn't pass up on, but interesting nonetheless. In the 3rd round, San Francisco takes a tackle, Dominic Puni from Kansas. And then they have 3 selections in the 4th round, safety Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest, running back Isaac Guerrero from Louisville, and wide receiver Jacob Cowing from Arizona. No 5th round picks for the 49ers, but in the 6th round they take a guard, Jared Kingston from USC. And then in the 7th round they take linebacker Tatum Bethune from Florida State. San Francisco overall, I'm going to give them a B for their draft. And now we move on to my favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm absolutely ecstatic with this pick that they made. I'm shocked that he fell to us here in the 1st round. In our 1st round, 16th overall pick, defensive lineman Byron Murphy II from Texas. Elite athlete. The dude is absolutely huge. They showed him on camera. He looks like the Hulk. 12.5% pressure rate, which is the 3rd among D-tackles since 2021, behind only Jalen Carter and Kalijah Cansey. I think Murphy immediately goes into a tandem with Leonard Williams, and that just, in my opinion, him and Leonard Williams together, that's going to cause some issues. I think he'd be an immediate impact player for Seattle. Then the 3rd round, Seattle takes a guard, Christian Haynes from UConn, who's very athletic, thrives in zone. elite run blocker, but only so-so as a pass blocker. Should be a day one starter, especially in running sets. No second round pick for Seattle. Again, went right to third there. 2 in the 4th. Linebacker Tyrese Knight from UTEP. And tight end A.J. Barner from Michigan. In the 5th round, Seattle grabs a cornerback Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn. And then 3 6-round picks for Seattle. First one, tackle Sadawa Laumea from Utah. Cornerback DJ James from Auburn, and tackle Mike Terrell from Finley. Like I said, I'm really happy with Murphy. I think he is going to be an elite talent. But a lack of a second round pick here really hurt Seattle. And outside of maybe Haynes, I don't really see anybody else being mainstays on the roster. So I'm going to give Seattle a B. But that Murphy pick, I'm really pumped to see that guy play. And he said that Seattle is his favorite team, and he grew up watching the Legion of Boom. So it's like, same. Hello, Legion of Boom. Only 3 teams left to go. We're coming up on an hour and a half now. Depending on how much of this I've edited out, I don't know. Come to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their first pick is 26 overall, and they take a tackle, Graham Barton from Duke. Barton has experience at center, but he can play anywhere up front. He is extremely athletic. In the second round, at 56th overall, they take edge Chris Braswell from Alabama, who is a power edge, not very explosive, but a good anchor, and led the SEC in pressures. 2 third-round picks for Tampa Bay. The first one they use on safety, Tyke Smith from Georgia, and the second one on wide receiver, Jalen McMillan from Washington. In the 4th round, they take a running back, Bucky Irving from Oregon. No 5th-round pick, but in the 6th, guard Elijah Klein from UTEP. Then the 7th round tight end, Devin Culp from Washington. Overall, I think Tampa Bay did what they needed to do here. I'm going to give them a B+. B+. The Tennessee Titans. Their offseason so far, they've really improved this roster. One thing I thought they still needed was offensive line help, and they got that at the 7th overall pick in the first round. J.C. Latham from Alabama, the second best offensive tackle behind Joe Alt. Position of major need for Tennessee, protecting their sophomore year quarterback next season. Dude is huge, 343 pounds, absolute behemoth physical presence. Gonna be big for them. Then at 38th overall in the second round, the Titans draft D-lineman Devondre Sweat from Texas. He grades out high on both run defense and pass rushing. Only slid this far due to some off-field issues. This could end up being a steal for them if he ends up not, having issues. And he has great size. No 3rd-round pick for Tennessee, but in the 4th round they take a linebacker, Cedric Gray from North Carolina. In the 5th round, they take a cornerback, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. from Louisville. In the 6th round, they draft a wide receiver, Jaquan Jackson from Tulane. Then 2 picks in the 7th. The first is a safety, James Williams from Miami, Florida. And edge, Jalen Harrell from Michigan. And finally, the final team I want to talk about, and a team that maybe had the best draft. In my opinion, it's a toss-up between them, Chicago, and Philadelphia. Those are the only 3 teams. Spoiler alert, the only 3 teams I give an A+ to in this draft. Washington, Chicago, Philadelphia. Only A+ drafts in my opinion. But Washington had a beast of a draft. 2nd overall pick, they take quarterback Jaden Daniels from LSU. In my opinion, the 2nd best quarterback in this draft. Heisman winner, dual threat quarterback who plays a very exciting type of football, but he also has very good fundamentals. run pass option threat. But he has only, I'd say, average arm talent. He doesn't throw bombs. He's not a deep threat, really, with the ball. Just kind of an average arm talent. And he is prone to taking sacks, and at the NFL level, that's not going to be good. You have to clean that up. So if he can improve his arm, if he can, improve the depth on his throws, if he can start not holding on to the ball as long, not taking those sacks, I'm really excited for Jaden Daniels. They had 3 second-round picks. All of these guys I'm really high on. The first one, Jerzon Newton from Illinois. Extremely productive defensive player. One of only 3 Power 5 interior D-line to record more than 100 pressures over the last 2 years. At 50th, they take a cornerback, Mike St. Ristel from Michigan. Very versatile on the field. Second most interceptions for any quarterback in the draft. And really good reaction time. And then at 53rd overall, they take Ben Sinnott from Kansas State, who's very athletic tight end, but kind of a jack of all trades, not elite in any one category. Not the best blocker, not the best rusher, not the best receiver, but he can kind of do all those things decently, which, there's value there for sure. In the 3rd round, the Commanders draft offensive tackle Brandon Coleman from TCU, as well as wide receiver Luke McCaffrey from Rice. I'm assuming that's Chris McCaffrey's brother, I'm not 100% sure. They have 2 5th-round picks. The first one is linebacker Jordan McGee from Temple, and then they get a safety, Dominique Hampton from Washington, and finally in the 7th round, the final pick for the Washington Commanders, they get edge Javonte Jean-Baptiste from Notre Dame. And like Gary said, Washington is one of only 3 teams that I gave an A+ to. So, Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, in my opinion, the 3 best drafts this year. Yeah, and depending on how this season pans out, we can say, oh, this team had the best draft, and said this team, whatever, but in my opinion, it's going to be one of those 3. There'll be 1, 2, 3 in some order. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm sorry that this video is a little bit later than I'd have liked it to be, but for that reason, I made it a little bit longer than I usually would. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this draft, how you feel like your team did. The biggest reaches, steals, the biggest shocks of the draft for you, who you think booms or busts are going to be. Love to hear any and all comments down below. I go through about once a week or so and respond to as many of them as I can. Anyway, guys, until next time.